Today's panelist will present her project called the Open Explainability Protocol, or OEXP, a groundbreaking initiative aimed at creating global interoperable standards for explainable AI. As AI systems increasingly impact critical decisions, OEXP offers a practical framework for ensuring transparency, accountability, and user understanding across diverse contexts. Our speaker will also explore how OEXP aligns with emerging regulations like the EU AI Act and NIST's AI Risk Management Framework, while fostering cross-border collaboration and grassroots participation, particularly from the Global South. Before we introduce our speaker, Rohana will outline some housekeeping rules for the session. Hi, Rohana.
Hi Priya, welcome everyone. Before we dive in, let me quickly run through some Zoom tips to help us have a great session together. This will be a 1-hour discussion. There will be 10 to 12 minutes allotted for our guest speaker. The last 15 minutes are allocated to the audience for their questions. Please be aware that this session is being recorded. By participating, you consent to being recorded. All attendees will be muted throughout the presentation. Only the speaker and the host will have their video on. Attendees can keep their videos off or on. Please use the chat box to submit questions. We'll address them during the Q&A session at the end. We recommend using Speaker View for the best experience. This recording will be submitted to various social media outlets. It'll be free of charge and for educational purposes only.
Thank you, Rohana. And now I'm really delighted to introduce Sahaj Vaidya, today's guest speaker. Sahaj is a doctoral researcher in data science at the New Jersey Institute of Technology and focuses on ethical AI governance and data-driven decision-making. Her project, the Open Explainability Protocol, aims to set global standards for explainable AI, enhancing trust and accessibility. As the AI policy lead at Civic Data Lab, Sahaj works on AI governance and risk assessment, collaborating with policymakers and industry leaders. Her active roles in several key organizations, including the National Institute of Standards and Technology and World Ethical Data Forum, highlight her commitment to policy development, standardization, and advancing human-machine collaboration with robust safety guardrails. Welcome, Sahaj.
Thank you so much, Rohana and Priya, for the introduction. And I'm really grateful to Zero Digit Speech for giving me this opportunity to come on this platform and share my thoughts and experiences with this esteemed audience. So really thankful for this opportunity. So let me give you a brief background about myself and then I can start with the presentation. I'm Sahaj Vaidya, and as Priya mentioned, I'm a PhD student in Department of Informatics at New Jersey Institute of Technology. And I'm also currently serving as an AI policy researcher with a think tank called Civic Data Labs. The focus of my work is to kind of look at how to develop a set of safety guidelines and protocols for deployment of these AI systems. Given that AI is a very emerging technology and it has a lot of different aspects surrounding it, we need to ensure that we use it in a very responsible and careful manner so as to avoid any unintended consequences. So today I'll present one of my works that I have been doing for my doctoral research, which is called the Open Explainability Protocol. So before we actually begin with what this protocol is and what this research looks like, let me take all of you on a quick thought experiment. Is my screen visible? Okay. Okay, so now imagine that you're applying for a job or maybe seeking a loan or even needing some medical treatment. And now imagine that someone or something you have never met makes this kind of decision, whether your loan gets approved or rejected, or whether you are hired for the job, whether your CV passes through the screening test. But you just get a decision, a binary decision in a yes and no format. So this is not science fiction from years ago. This is actually happening right now in and around us. Probably it's even happening at the moment. AI systems are making more decisions about our lives every day. And it might not be wrong to say that they have crept into even the most minuscule aspects of our lives. Because AI systems are making so many automated decisions for us quietly, invisibly, and often without us realizing that these decisions are already made. And here's the catch, we are expected to trust these systems even when we don't know or don't understand how they work. But trust without understanding? That's a very dangerous scenario. So the question is not how AI makes these decisions. The question is about who gets to understand and question these decisions. Who decides how explainable AI should be? And that's why we have gathered here today. And that is where the Open Explainability Protocol, or the OEXP, comes in. It's about putting you, me, and all of us back into the loop. So let me introduce you to the OEXP protocol. It is a practical way to make AI explainable, fair, and human centered. But first, exactly what is OEXP? Before understanding the exact components of OEXP, imagine that you go to a doctor and they tell you that maybe a robot will perform a surgery for you, or maybe some robot, an AI based model will perform some kind of diagnostic screening for you. You'll be kind of little suspicious about revealing your personal medical data to this non human entity. And the non human factor plays a very important role in these cases, especially in high stake settings like healthcare, fintech, banking, military systems. When AI systems are deployed in these settings, well, explainability and transparency becomes a major concern. So, the current lack of explainability uh, in AI systems arises because in present these AI models are typically black box in nature. Every AI developer explains their AI model in their own way. Some oversimplify, others make it more confusing because a lot of literature exists out there, but there's no standard consensus on what exactly is explanation required, what what amount or what level of understanding is required in order to interpret these explanations. So because of this black box nature of AI systems, a lot of us are, stranded, confused about, why this decision was made or why such diagnosis was obtained. Well, it's a big question mark. And that's one of the major contributions of the Open Explainability Protocol, which is about creating a shared, interoperable framework. You can imagine it like the HTML of explainability, so that no matter where you are, or what system you are interacting with, or whatever platform that you are dealing with, you get clear, understandable insights about how these decisions are made. And we are not talking about technical people or the domain experts only. OXP is designed to empower everyone, whether you are a regulator, an AI auditor, or an ordinary citizen who's asking, why did the AI say no? Because we want explainability to be practical, consistent, and trusted, not just a tech checkbox for compliance. OXP is like building a common ground between the humans and the machines. At its core, it's made up of three parts: explainability statements, that simple standardized summaries that explain what happened and why it matters; risk disclosure, which highlights where the system is uncertain, biased, or risky. No more hiding behind the complexity. And feedback loops, which gives the user the power to ask questions or challenge or contest decisions. Imagine an AI that explains itself as well as listens to you. That will be the best case scenario, right? The magic is that it's open source, co created, and focused on real world use cases, whether you are in Europe, Africa, Asia, or Latin America. And that's why the main aspects of OXP is that it's practical, inclusive, and global because it's agnostic to any model or platform that we are dealing with. This OEXP is built in alignment with some of the standard global legislations like the EU Act, the NIST AI RMF, and the ISO standards so that organizations can easily plug into their existing workflows and processes, and there's no need to kind of reinvent the wheel. So now that we have a fair understanding about what is OEXP, let us see how it works in practice. Let's bring this to life. Imagine a loan application. You hit submit and the AI system rejects it. That's where this confusing black box comes. You don't know what features were utilized, why was it rejected. Only answer shown to you or the only result displayed is a simple no, a rejection. Today, you might get a cold application denial with zero context. However, when OXP comes into picture, there is an aspect of transparency coming. Your, and you may get a clear, human readable statement like your application was denied because your income was below the required threshold or there were inconsistencies in your credit history, something like that. And then you might also get risk information that the model is 85% confident in this decision, but there's this 15% uncertainty. Well, doesn't this seem like a very good scenario? And with this kind of transparency, humans can also have a good amount of confidence in the machines, the AI systems that they are dealing with. And here's the cool part, you can challenge it or submit it for more info to clarify. This
Sahaj,
is not, yes?
I'm so sorry to interrupt, but I think the PowerPoint presentation is not in the slideshow format, so like nobody is able to see all the other slides. I'm so sorry to interrupt you, but I just wanted
Okay,
to
yeah, let me check it
ensure
out.
that.
Yeah, let me just, is it visible now?
Yes, it's visible. Perfect. Thank you so much. So sorry for the interruption.
No problem. So, as I was talking, that this is not about being polite, it's about giving people the power to, you know, contest the decisions that they obtain from the AI system and those that the underserved population that are often left out of these AI decisions. And as you can see on the slide, that we have this kind of workflow where when there's no standard explanation based procedure, it's a typical black box. No understanding about what's going on internally in the model. However, come OXP into picture, you have a lens of transparency, and at the end, ultimately, you obtain a human understandable report in your hands. So, no matter wherever you are, or whatever that you are dealing with, or whatever your expertise, the aim of OXP is to generate explanations tailored to your level. So, where do we go from here? Think of OXP as your passport to a world where AI decisions are transparent, fair, and explainable for everyone. No more guessing games like this happened because this might be the case, or AI might have misclassified, or something like that. No more just trust the experts. It's about bringing everyone together on a global level. Like a lot of us have seen quite a bit of news about the some of the most developed countries are dominating in this domain as compared to the countries in the global south. But AI is a technology which can benefit a very broad section of people. So instead of competing on a geopolitical basis, or on for different political factors, giving it that angle, it might be really beneficial if the countries can reach a cooperation on a global level by multi-stakeholder engagement so that they can devise strategies, policies, and guidelines to include voices from people of all the section of society and see that it actually causes the maximum potential benefit to a vast amount of people. So now it's about creating a global collaboration with a local impact. And it's about creating explainable AI that works for everyone, not just the domain experts or technical people. So, if I were to say in a nutshell, OXP is your passport to AI that's fair, transparent, and inclusive. So, we have got the destination set, which is transparency, trust, and inclusion with OEXP. And let's make sure that we all arrive there together. So that's my presentation on the Open Explainability Protocol, and I'll be happy to take any questions or comments that you'd have. Thank you.
Thank you, Sahaj. Um, I don't see any questions from the audience, so I'll just ask you the first question. Um, what are some of the biggest technical challenges in implementing explainability standards?
So actually, ever since some of the papers about attention and transformers were launched in 2017, a lot of literature exists out there on making these explainability decisions more accessible in nature, using some of the techniques like sharp and lime. And but the thing is that there's no very standardized definition of what exactly an explanation looks like. So maybe as an AI developer, I may put explanation in some way, someone else may have a very different manner. So when you give out these systems for commercial purposes, well, the end users are not technical experts, right? So the result that is given to them is highly opaque, and they really do not have an understanding of what they are dealing with.
Thank you. I think we do have a question, but you might have answered it with mine, but I'll ask it anyway. It's from one of our guests here, Mr. Chandramuli. Can you elaborate on how your framework brings explainability?
Thank you for the question. Now we have an AI life cycle, right from commissioning to model building, deployment, and lastly the investigation or the evaluation stage. These are most for majority of the AI systems. This is how the pipeline looks like. Currently, explainability is mostly brought into picture right after the system is built, deployed, and put it for utility. That's where the problem arises, that after everything is done and said, then you are bringing explainability in order to ensure transparency. However, with the help of this work, our proposal is that we include it by design, like right from the model building stage. If we include these protocols in each and every stage of the life cycle, then we can at least try to bring down the unintended consequences, the bias, or the lack of fairness that arises when the model gives certain outcomes. So, the idea here is to involve some of these explainability techniques into each of these phases at various levels so as we can have a good outcome, and at least an outcome which has less amount of bias towards the end.
Thank you so much for your answer for that. So I guess for now we don't have another question from the audience. So I would like to hop on with the next question that I would like to ask. So I think one of my questions is, now that you have like presented this and everything, so what are your next steps for the OEXP, and like how, stakeholders, governments, businesses, researchers can contribute furthermore to this development?
So, from here, our idea is to create kind of, working groups, focus groups with bringing in experts or people from different domains and different backgrounds. Because after all, the idea here is to bring in public voices, participatory mechanisms. Until now, it's kind of top-down approach, like the governments or the bodies design the protocols and people have to abide by them. So sometimes there's kind of a gap, right? Because they might not exactly know what are the needs or the expectations of people. I mean, the end users who are actually impacted by these. And that's why utilizing some of these methods to bring in diverse voices is one of our aims, to create these guidelines which are actually inclusive and accessible in nature. And one of the aim here is to kind of not just leverage the bottom up thing, but in order to bring in voices from people might not exactly be the technical experts or the domain people, but maybe just the end user, simple audience, citizens who are impacted by maybe say AI driven diagnostic systems or AI driven loan approvals or credit scoring systems.
I do have another question. So thank you so much for that answer, Sahaj. My question is, um, how does OEXP ensure participation from, say, less represented regions, particularly the global south, you know, in India, Bangladesh, Cambodia, um, Somalia, Senegal, etc.? What are your thoughts on that?
So, one of the first and foremost things here is to create a foundational AI literacy. Right now, if you look at the overall landscape, there's a lot of hype surrounding AI. And because these tools like ChatGPT, Cloud, Gemini are open source and very user friendly in nature, people, like even lay people, have been utilizing them for all sorts of their purpose. So people kind of know how to use these tools, but the problem is that they do not know how to use them in a responsible and careful manner. And that's where AI literacy comes in, especially in these developing countries or the second tier countries where access to even digital transformation sometimes becomes difficult. Introducing AI technologies is a big challenge. So, before those things are brought into practice or even regulations are imposed, bringing that level of awareness is the first step. So in these countries, yeah, a lot of these countries have already started with imparting education on university level or through some of the trainings, employee trainings, workshops. A lot of those initiatives are currently underway, and I think that's a very good thing, particularly in countries of global south, where they have kind of economic challenges, political instability, and things like that. So if people are aware of the emerging landscape, they are competent, at least in terms of their skill set, to know what's going on around in the rest of the world.
Thank you so much for that perspective as well. So I guess like this mode of right now that we have so many questions because it's such an interesting PowerPoint presentation that you've presented. So I have furthermore a couple of another question as well for you is so when you've described all of this in terms of the OEXP, what are some of your biggest like technical challenges maybe that can arise when it comes to implementing the explainability standards at scale?
There are two aspects of it. If we look at the actual implementation, the backend side of things, computing power and resources are often an issue because, as you know, that these LLMs and things require a lot of computing power. And you run out of memory storage. You need those high performing GPUs, which in turn is, sometimes may not be so economical in nature, and the figures can go very astronomical. So on the backend side, that's an issue. On the other side, if you look at the strategic side of things, bringing together perspectives from different people, the regulatory bodies, think tanks, academic researchers, private organizations, industries, putting all those perspectives together and actually devising something is a challenging task because the industry challenges may be very different to someone in academia as compared to someone on a regulatory side. So, combining all of them, collating it, and then actually putting out something which is useful and tangible is a big challenge.
Thank you, Sahaj. If you don't mind, everyone, I'll ask one more question.
Sure.
Um, are there any pilot projects or industry collaborations currently using OEXP? And if yes, what have been the key takeaways so far?
So with OEXP, we have currently, collaborated with some of the institutions or think tanks within the European Union region, because you know that with EU Act coming into picture, there are a lot of moving blocks. Like sometimes people don't know what regulations to abide by, or if their geographical location is something else, but they have offices in the EU, then what should be done? So a lot of question marks and confusions. So we started with discussions with some of these entities within the EU, and some of the things, major things that we observed were there are a lot of guidelines, protocols out there. The EU Act is pretty comprehensive in nature, but people or these or the SMEs or these entities are what they are looking for is in like what's in it for them. They don't know whether they don't want to know whether it's 200, 500, or 1,000 pages long. The only thing they want to know is what they need to do when this EU Act is actually coming into picture. So that was one of the things. And second is that sometimes this is people are kind of not proactive in their approach towards adopting these things. For them, it's maybe just a formal process to, tick mark that they have so and so compliance, or they are ISO 42001 certified or something. It's just on paper. When you actually talk them that, see, you are utilizing this AI-based solution, now you are in the European Union region, you may face these kind of penalties or punishments, and they say like, yeah, we have it on our files, we'll communicate, but we don't actually need your chief AI ethics officer. So those were two major observations.
Thank you, Sahaj. I don't have any questions. Rohana, anybody else?
I mean, I guess so far Sahaj has answered every question so wonderfully, and this project, this protocol that you've created, I think is a great step forward in this whole AI development, AI innovation world that it's not like we're stepping into, we're already there, and it's more progress to like happen. And I think to have such frameworks in place, like especially when it's like also a little bit of focus here on like global south and all that stuff, to like empower everyone and make everyone aware about it, I think is a great step forward in this direction. So I mean, I'm out of questions because I think clearly we asked almost everything at this point, and this was a wonderful conversation is what I can say so far.
Yes. So I'm going to be closing out then. Thank you so much. This has been an incredibly enlightening discussion. A big thank you to our amazing guest for sharing their expertise. Due to time constraints, we weren't able to address all the questions that we had or explore every aspect of the topic. However, the depth and quality of today's discussion was just remarkable. Thank you again to our panelists and to everyone who joined us today. Remember, you can stay connected with Zero Day Dispatch through our website, newsletter, our LinkedIn page, X, and other social media platforms, all of which I've added to our chat. And we really look forward to continuing these crucial conversations. Until next time, thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you so much, Sahaj. Thank you,
Thank you very
everyone.
much.